Have you ever found yourself thinking, I used to do this without even thinking twice, but now it takes effort, planning, or even help? Maybe it's something as simple as getting up from the floor, carrying in the groceries, or remembering where you put your glasses again. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. After 60, a lot changes. And that's not a bad thing, it's just part of life. But what is important is making sure those changes don't sneak up on you and chip away at your independence. Because here's the truth, independence isn't just about driving yourself to the store or living without help. It's about feeling capable, confident, and in control of your own life on your own terms. Now, most people think that losing independence happens suddenly, like after a fall or a health scare. But in reality, it's often the little habits, the subtle choices, the quiet neglect of things we used to do that gradually pull us away from the freedom we worked so hard for. The good news is those pitfalls can be avoided. And today, we're going to talk about how. In this video, we're going to gently walk through 5 of the most common habits and mindsets that quietly lead to dependence after 60, and more importantly, how you can sidestep them. We're not talking about overhauling your life or doing anything extreme. These are simple, doable shifts, things you can start today that will help you stay sharp, strong, and self-reliant for years to come. Let's start with the first one, and it's a big one: stopping physical movement. It often begins so subtly. Maybe you start avoiding stairs because they make your knees ache. You stop walking after dinner because it's cold or you feel tired. You sit longer and move less. It doesn't feel like a big deal in the moment. But what many people don't realize is that after 60, inactivity speeds up the aging process more than almost anything else. Your muscles aren't just there for lifting things. They're your body's support system. They help you balance, stay upright, protect your joints, and even regulate your blood sugar. The moment you stop using them regularly, they begin to shrink. That's not just a fitness issue, it's a life issue. Weak muscles make everyday activities harder. They increase your risk of falls. And once a fall happens, the path to recovery becomes steeper. But the good news, you don't have to hit the gym or lift heavy weights to keep your muscles strong. It can be as simple as walking around the block each morning, doing some light stretching before bed, or even dancing around the kitchen while making dinner. The goal isn't to run marathons, it's to move your body every day in a way that feels good. Think of movement like brushing your teeth. You don't skip it for days just because you're tired. You do it because it keeps things from falling apart. And if you've been sedentary for a while, that's okay. Start small. One walk, one set of gentle chair exercises, one moment where you stand up during a commercial break instead of staying seated. Momentum builds quickly and your body will thank you. Now let's talk about something that's just as critical but much less visible: social isolation. You know, there's a kind of loneliness that doesn't always feel like sadness. It's more like a slow, quiet drifting away. Maybe the phone rings less, maybe your circle has gotten smaller, maybe you just feel more comfortable staying home. And again, that doesn't feel like a problem until it is. Social isolation is one of the sneakiest threats to independence in older adults. When we stop engaging with others, we stop challenging our brains. We stop laughing as much, moving as much, thinking as much. Conversations stimulate memory. Social outings encourage movement. Even just sharing a meal with someone gives your mental and emotional health a lift that nothing else quite replaces. When those moments vanish, your mood can shift. Depression creeps in quietly, motivation goes down, and then your energy drops. And suddenly you're in a cycle where you're doing less, feeling less connected, and slowly withdrawing even more. But you don't have to wait for people to reach out to you. Take the lead. Call someone just to chat, join a group even if it's just an online one for now. Visit your local community center. Even just talking to the cashier at the grocery store counts. Every small interaction is like a drop in the bucket of your social well-being. If reaching out feels hard, remember this: people are waiting to connect. Others are lonely too. You reaching out might be the highlight of their day. And every connection you make is one more thread keeping you strong, supported, and engaged in the world around you. Let's move into something else that's easy to overlook: skipping medical checkups. It's understandable. Nobody looks forward to sitting in a waiting room or getting poked and prodded. Sometimes you feel fine and you think, why bother? Other times you're afraid they'll find something wrong. But avoiding the doctor doesn't make health problems go away. It often makes them worse or lets them grow unnoticed until they become a crisis. Regular checkups aren't just about fixing what's broken. They're about preventing things from breaking in the first place. Catching high blood pressure early. Managing prediabetes before it turns into diabetes. Checking your vision so you don't trip over something in your own living room. It's about staying ahead of the curve. And here's something you may not have considered. When you skip appointments, doctors have a harder time helping you stay independent. They're not just there for emergencies. They're there to help you keep living on your own, doing the things you love without interruption. So if it's been a while since your last visit, pick up the phone. Make that appointment. Get your hearing checked. Talk to your doctor about your medications, your sleep, your digestion, whatever's been quietly bugging you. Your future self will be so glad you did. Now that we've covered how physical inactivity, social isolation, and missed health checkups can slowly chip away at independence, you might be starting to think about your own routines. Not in a critical way, but with curiosity. Because this isn't about pointing fingers. It's about noticing the little things we can shift, starting today, that can have a big impact tomorrow. And really, that's what staying independent is all about. It's not about pretending you're still 40. It's about honoring the strength and wisdom you have now and using it to create a life that works for you, not against you. Let's keep the momentum going, because every insight we uncover here is really a small investment in your freedom, your energy, and your peace of mind. We've already touched on how inactivity, social isolation, and skipping medical visits can gradually pull us toward dependence without us even realizing it. But there are still a couple more habits that often go unnoticed, and they can be just as important, if not more. So let's talk about something that may seem harmless on the surface: avoiding new challenges. Now, I get it. After 60, after a lifetime of responsibilities, trials, triumphs, and lessons learned the hard way, the last thing many people want to hear is that they need to challenge themselves. You might be thinking, haven't I earned the right to just take it easy? And yes, you absolutely have. You've earned rest, peace, and time to do what brings you joy. But here's the secret: growth doesn't stop at retirement. In fact, it shouldn't. When you stop learning new things, when you stop giving your brain a little stretch now and then, it slowly starts to check out. Not all at once, but little by little. Just like muscles shrink when we stop using them, your brain does too. And it doesn't have to be a crossword puzzle or Sudoku, although those are great. Learning a new skill, picking up a hobby you've never tried before, or even just watching documentaries about things you've never explored can light up parts of your brain that haven't been used in years. Think about this: when was the last time you did something for the first time? Something that made you feel unsure, maybe even a little clumsy or silly. Those moments are golden. They keep your mind agile, your spirit curious, and your confidence high. And confidence is a huge piece of staying independent. Let me share a quick story. I once knew a gentleman, let's call him Joe, who took up watercolor painting at 72. Never painted before in his life. He said he always admired landscapes, so one day he just picked up a brush. At first, he said it looked like a toddler made a mess, but over time, he found joy in the learning. He shared his art with his grandkids, who began painting with him every Saturday morning. And just like that, a new hobby became a bonding activity, a creative outlet, and a source of mental stimulation. Joe didn't take up painting to stay independent, but that's exactly what happened. He kept his brain busy, his heart full, and his week filled with something to look forward to. That's what growth can look like. Not just big leaps, but gentle nudges into something fresh. So try something, anything: pick up the ukulele, take a beginner yoga class, Learn to cook a new recipe once a week. Download an app to learn Spanish or do a 15-minute virtual museum tour. The goal isn't to master it, it's simply to try, because every new experience adds color to your days and strength to your mind. Now let's turn our attention to one final and often underestimated pitfall: ignoring emotional health. This one hits close to home for many people, but they don't always talk about it. Maybe you've experienced some loss in recent years: a spouse, a sibling, a friend. Maybe your children are grown and busy, or your home feels too quiet now. And sometimes there's a voice that says, well, this is just what happens when you get older. But that voice is wrong. Yes, life changes after 60, but sadness, anxiety, and hopelessness aren't things you just have to accept. And ignoring those feelings doesn't make them go away. It just allows them to build quietly in the background, draining your energy, stealing your motivation, and eventually impacting your physical health. You see, emotional health and physical independence are deeply connected. When you're not feeling emotionally well, you're less likely to cook nutritious meals, less likely to move your body, and more likely to isolate. That's when the spiral begins. And the longer it goes unspoken, the harder it can be to climb back out. But the moment you acknowledge how you're feeling, that's the moment things begin to shift. Talk to someone, a friend, a family member, a therapist. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Just saying, "I've been feeling off lately," can open a door. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. And don't underestimate the power of small things to lift your spirit. Music, nature, pets, laughter, sunlight, these things are healing in ways we often forget. One morning walk, one favorite song, one warm chat over coffee. These are the things that patch up the heart and keep the mind clear. If you've been feeling down, sluggish, or disconnected, that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And being human means you have the right to reach out and receive care just like anyone else. There's a woman I know named Linda. She lost her husband in her late 60s and spent the next year just going through the motions. Didn't want to see friends, didn't eat well, and barely left the house. Then one day she joined a walking group, mostly because her doctor suggested it. She didn't say much at first, but she kept showing up. And slowly things changed. She met people. She laughed again. She started cooking again. That one small step led to a whole new chapter in her life. And it all started with recognizing that she needed something more. We all do. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Now that we've explored how avoiding new challenges and ignoring emotional well-being can quietly push us toward dependence, I want to pause for a second and remind you, you're already doing something powerful right now. Just by watching this, just by reflecting, you're showing up for your future self. Because staying independent after 60 isn't about fighting age. It's about working with it. It's about adjusting, adapting, and strengthening the parts of your life that give you joy, purpose, and freedom. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. About choosing to care, choosing to act, even in small ways. Let's take a moment to breathe that all in. You've already come a long way in this conversation. Not just by listening, but by really reflecting on how your everyday choices, even the smallest ones, are shaping your future. That's something not everyone takes the time to do, and it's powerful. We've uncovered how physical inactivity, social isolation, skipping medical checkups, avoiding new challenges, and ignoring emotional health can each, in their own quiet way, lead us down a path we never intended to walk. But here's the beauty. The moment you see the path clearly, you can change direction. And not only that, you can build a new one filled with strength, connection, joy, and purpose. Because the truth is, independence doesn't just mean doing everything by yourself. It means having choices. It means waking up each morning and deciding how you want to spend your day, not letting circumstances or decline make that choice for you. Now let's bring it all together. Think about your body for a moment. It's carried you through decades of life, through jobs and relationships, heartbreak and celebration, routines and reinventions. It's been through injuries, stress, changes you never expected, and yet here you are. That body deserves to be cared for, supported, and celebrated. You don't need to do headstands or lift heavy weights, but you do need to move. A little each day. Your joints, your muscles, your balance, all of them respond beautifully to gentle, consistent movement. And the more you move, the more you'll want to move. That's momentum. That's vitality. And then there's your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, your memories. Your mind is just as alive and capable now as it was years ago, maybe even more so. But like any muscle, it needs stimulation. That doesn't mean cramming in facts or playing memory games all day. It just means staying curious, staying connected, asking questions, trying things, keeping your inner world rich and alive, because when your mind is engaged, your spirit follows. And perhaps most importantly, your heart. Not just your physical heart, though that's essential, but your emotional heart. Your capacity for joy, connection, love, forgiveness, and peace. Those things matter just as much as what's on your lab report. Maybe even more. Take care of that heart. Talk about what's weighing on you. Share what you're proud of. Laugh deeply and often. Cry when you need to. Let people in and reach out when you need someone to lean on. You've probably noticed by now that all 5 of these pitfalls are connected. When we isolate ourselves, we stop moving. When we stop moving, our mood dips. When we avoid challenges, our mind gets foggy. When we ignore emotional pain, our health suffers. And when we skip checkups, we miss the signs that could keep us strong. But the flip side is just as true. When we begin moving again, even just a little, we feel better. When we connect with others, our days feel lighter. When we challenge our mind, we feel more capable. When we care for our emotions, we make room for hope and healing. One positive step leads to another. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. In fact, you shouldn't. That's not how lasting change works. What matters most is starting with just one small shift. Choose one thing, one habit, one area where you think, yeah, I could do better there, and begin. Maybe it's getting out for a 15-minute walk in the morning. Maybe it's calling a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe it's booking that long overdue doctor's appointment, or finally signing up for that painting class you've always wanted to try. It doesn't have to be big to be meaningful. Small steps are powerful and they add up faster than you think. And remember, you are not alone on this journey. Not at all. There are millions of people your age, older and younger, navigating this same chapter of life with the same concerns, the same hopes, the same desire to stay strong and independent for as long as possible. And the more we talk about it, the more we support each other, the better off we all are. So I want to invite you to take that connection one step further. Drop a comment below this video. Let me know what part resonated most with you. What's one thing you want to start doing differently, or one thing you're already proud of doing right? When you share, it encourages someone else to take action too. If this video has helped you, if it sparked a new thought, reminded you of something important, or simply made you feel seen, please take a second to give it a thumbs up. It really helps this kind of content reach more people who need it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more uplifting, practical advice made just for you. We talk a lot about youth in our culture, but there is something deeply beautiful about this stage of life, about the clarity, the perspective, the courage that comes from having lived. You're not starting over, you're building forward. You still have stories to live, memories to make, and new joys to discover. This is your time to thrive. Not just survive, but thrive. You deserve a life that feels spacious, fulfilling, and joyful. One where you wake up feeling proud of how you care for yourself in body, mind, and spirit. One where you continue to grow, contribute, and be surrounded by people who see your value. So here's to you for showing up, for being curious, and for choosing to keep going, keep growing, and keep living your life on your terms. Here's to independence. Here's to strength. And here's to living your best life at any age.